Welcome, friends, to the chat and the end of another year. Put it in the books, 2021. You're done. It's over. Goodbye.
Well, close.
Close. When will this come out? This will come out after the happiest of holidays.
After? It's not going to come out on Christmas Eve?
It's going to, no, you're right. It's Christmas Eve, Friday the 24th. You are correct.
This is our gift to you this year, Christmas Eve. And then I guess the question is, next week's episode would come out on New Year's Eve, which probably no one is going to want to listen to that night. Probably.
No, everyone will. What else you got to do? Honestly, you're not going out.
You don't want to go out and get Omicron? No.
Or as I've been affectionately referring to it, Pandemic 2.0 or Pandemic 2, the sequel.
The fact that you can even use the word affectionately is great. You have more compassion in your little finger than I ever will in my entire body.
For a deadly virus? Sure. Yes. My name is Matt Silverman. Who is this voice talking to me from the ether?
Oh, it's Colette Bennett. The other person whose name is in the title of the podcast, you know. Just that person.
Just that person. We have some plans up our sleeves that we are very excited about. But when we sat down this week, we said, you know what? Like, it's the end of the year show, or maybe the let's call it the penultimate end of year broadcast, and we thought we would be remiss if we did not do some sort of game of the year discussion. Except, I don't want to speak for you, but I feel wholly unqualified to truly editorially say, well, I played every big new release and all the indies, and I can definitively and expertly say this is my top 10 list or this is my game of the year. I do not feel qualified to do any of that because while we talk about a lot of games, it's not much in the scheme of things. So we thought, in our tiny little alcove of the internet, could we pick our personal favorites? This is not necessarily the game we would recommend to the most people, or not something we could definitively say is the best or better than others. It's just like, of what we played, here's my fave of 2021.
Yeah, just choosing one fave. Let me tell you, though, I did a lot of squirming. Did a lot of squirming last night. I was like, and my husband had to listen to all this. So like, I was like, he came in and I was, sitting in front of our TV, watching some of the gameplay of some of the games, some of which I had played. And we had this really interesting conversation on, so, like, for instance, if you read IGN reviews or, any reviews that you care about, a big ethics thing around game reviews was that you should finish the game. If you're going to, you can't just play 10 hours of the game and review it because you haven't gotten the whole picture. So that was something that gamers were pretty lit about in my Destructoid days. And now I think there's some different lines of thought about it. But long story short, one of my things was, well, if I'm going to name a game my personal game of the year, should I have played it and completed it? Or should it be a game that I played a lot? Like, even if I didn't complete it in every way, shape, and form, I played 100 hours of it. Or could you name a game that you only spent 10 hours with, and maybe didn't even finish, but just dearly loved and had such a good time in those 10 hours. So this led to a really interesting conversation, I think, about what makes a game of the year for a personal game of the year versus a game of the year where you measure it on, well, this game had great storytelling, the highest graphical fidelity, the most fascinating world, the most interesting narrative, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's interesting to me, right? Like that, all thinking about all the things that you would potentially measure with.
Yeah,
so
I fully agree and have all the same thoughts. And so when we discussed getting in here, we simultaneously set out some rigorous rules, then also to address what you're asking about, like, but also it's just a personal choice, and you could have played 1 hour of this game and never played it again, but oh my God, it's my favorite. I love it so much. And maybe you'll get back to it. Maybe you don't need to get back to it to know that it is your favorite, your most favorite thing of this year.
Yeah.
But our only rules here for us and members of our community is that it must have been released within the calendar year of 2021. And or I'm bending that rule already slightly. If there was some DLC or update that dramatically improved or changed the game in a way that's like, well, I didn't really play much of this in 2020, but oh my God, the DLC changed everything and now I can't put it down. Like, I think there's room for discussion of that, if applicable. And two, we're not saying, as we said, that we have to complete the game, but this is not about saying something is, like we said earlier, is not objectively the best or the most critically acclaimed, or we don't. I guess what I'm saying is we don't necessarily have to give proof or evidence that this is structurally or objective. Nothing's objective, but we don't have to make a forensic case for why it is the best. It is just our feeling about why we love it for our personal game of the year.
Yeah. And I had to think very honestly and differently about that, which was fun and challenging and okay, maybe a little stressful, but for the most part, more like I just really, really, really had to think about it, you know?
And tell me if you and your husband had similar revelations. I'm looking back at things that I played and I'm like, I played a lot of things that did not come out this year. I played a lot of I enjoyed a lot of games that were from previous years that I had not yet gotten to. I spent a lot of this year going into the back catalog, which is making today's conversation a bit trickier for me.
Yeah, I also did too. And that's another thing I had to do. I had to go back and be like, oh, some of the games I love the most, you know, like what did I play them this year, but they didn't get around. They actually were released like the year before or something. So like one of the big ones I thought about, I was like, oh, I love this game so much. And then I went and looked it up and it was like, oh, it came out in August of 2020. But my big playtime with it was in 2021. So
what was that? Do you want to share that here?
It was Spiritfarer.
Yeah.
Like if that had come out this year, like no contest, that would have been the one that I named for the year, but it didn't. So I ended up choosing something else. But yeah, like, so then you really do have to go back and look and think about, okay, yeah, like what came out this year. And another thing about me as a gamer is that I often don't play things the moment they come out unless I am like chomping at the bit for that series. And there really aren't that many that I am that way about. So, you know, I'm definitely playing a new Persona game. I'm highly likely playing a new Final Fantasy main series entry game. You know, depending on the horror franchise, I would be playing a Silent Hill game day one if they were still coming out. But other than that, I'm not always a person who's like, let's go get the newest thing just because it's there.
Yep. I feel like I used to be more like that and have done less of that in my elderly geriatric phase of life.
For next, it's too late now, but maybe for next Christmas, I'll just mail you a collapsible walker.
Yes, that would, as long as it fits in the closet, then that will be helpful to me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Well, let us talk to our Discord community because we asked you, the listeners, to tell us what your personal game of the year. So I guess we got to make this official. Let's get into it. You take this first one because I think you'll have a lot to you'll have some shared discussion.
Our community member, Nikki Nekodes, says, I loved Unpacking. It's a simple puzzle game, but very soothing and enjoyable. It doesn't take a lot of time or effort like the other games I play, and it helped me find calm in the chaos of my life. I love the way that she worded it here because I was obviously extremely passionate about Unpacking. And one thing that I'm so grateful that I chose to do is that I loved it enough to literally finish the game, turn around and start it again and play it twice, which I think
always think about every time I look at that game or touch the game or my daughter plays it. I'm like, I think about you and how you literally were like, wow, that was great. here we go again. Like,
yeah, like at first, the thing I related to the most about Unpacking was that kind of extremely satisfying groove of putting things in their place, because that's something that I also enjoy in real life. But I think I'm so glad that craving drove me to play it again, because as I've said on prior episodes, replaying it helped me to see the story and context in a way that I kind of missed a little bit of the first time. And I feel like I wouldn't have gotten the fullest experience I could have if I hadn't done that.
Yep.
Also, I can't think of too many other games that I finished and was like, well, let's go back to the beginning and like
well,
immediately.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
immediately.
Like that was really tough, you know?
Yeah. Very, very special, very unique. And I love that idea. It's like rewatching a movie of like, well, now you know why this character is doing this or that. Mm-hmm. And there is something about knowing the ending of something or knowing the story of something that gives you more enjoyment on the second run around. And there's even research to suggest that spoiling a movie is good. like people. We have a member of our family who's like, oh no, I read the Wikipedia page of every movie I see before I see it, because I need to just know what's coming. And she enjoys the movie more by knowing. And at first, everyone in that conversation was like, "What the fuck's wrong with you?" And then you think about it, you're like, I think you're right. Actually, you're onto something here. I did it. I loved Unpacking as well, and I appreciate it deeply, and I really enjoyed my time with it. It did not mesmerize me as deeply as it did you. Mm-hmm. And that's not a criticism whatsoever. And I'm so happy that my daughter was like super into it and really loved it. And actually, she just rolled credits on it. And it was funny. She played and she got part of the way along, and then I started playing, and I just devoted more time to it. So I was further along than she was, and then we were like playing at the same time. I have a Switch Lite, so we're playing together at the same time, and she caught up to me and then surpassed me and finished the game. And as I might have mentioned to you, or perhaps on the show, it was so interesting to me to see an 8-year-old brain look at this game, and she just thought it was like random houses. She did not understand that it was a single character, or that the character was evolving through time, or that she really, and I'm going to try not to spoil anything, but she did not there are no human beings in the it's just the stuff. So there's no people talking, there's no dialogue. So she did not understand what the things that the stuff implied about interpersonal relationships. She's just like, right, where does this magnet go? I don't know. I can't put it in the toilet, so I'm going to put it here. And there are a couple, as you know, as you very well know, there are a couple of plot points where you can only put certain things certain places because of the implications of the storyline that is told through objects, and she did not understand that, and therefore hit a few walls where she didn't know where things went. And that was really funny. That was really interesting to see a kid play the game. So for what it's worth, I
never thought about that. Like, I mean, like what kind of impressions that I think, my takeaway, right, as a grown-ass adult, is that narrative just so, incredible. That kind of narrative storytelling, it was unlike most of what I'd ever seen. And I love that there was no, spoken dialogue, really. I just thought that was amazing. But it's interesting to think about that as maybe a more adult line of thought.
Right. I mean, and why would you think that? It just seems obvious when you start unpacking the boxes. But I found that really to us. Yeah. To the target audience of the game,
for sure. Right. It's interesting. And it's funny. I know some games, they definitely are interested in kind of like hitting a sweet spot where they can be for both children and adults. And I think that in order for the resonance of this game to really hit, I do feel like you have to be an adult that has potentially experienced some of the things that this character experiences
for the story to resonate, for sure.
But like, to kind of have had some of those moments yourself, I think, in whatever variety those came in.
But like a Disney movie, a kid can enjoy the wacky, colorful characters and the scenes, and an adult can enjoy the heartbreak
in places.
Right. That is what my daughter was all about it. And then it's funny, we were FaceTiming with my sister and her son, who loves his Switch and plays a lot of games, and she must have been talking about it, or I was talking about it, and then he was like, yeah, I want that. And then he started playing it. And then my sister was texting me pictures of like, we don't know where this toaster goes. And we were like, yeah, okay, that's a GameCube. It doesn't go in the kitchen. These kids today is spectacular.
Oh, worst feeling. worst feeling.
Yeah. So kudos to Unpacking. Pedro Cortez says it's a toss-up between Life is Strange, True Colors, and Metroid Dread. Metroid was a great entry into the franchise that did some new stuff to keep its style of game fresh. But Life is Strange gave me the feels I was craving from Life is Strange 2, but didn't get from that game. Now, I agree with Metroid. I loved Metroid Dread, and I think I was so pleased that it made its mark on the franchise. I don't know how much we will venture into this territory, but like, hey, don't you, when you say a game of the year, don't you want to, not like it's an award show, but like, wouldn't we aspire to talk about and give praise to a thing that is new and fresh and innovative versus a really, really good ass Metroid game that is still like, this formula has always been here, and that's a larger discussion. And then I'll hand it back to you, because I have zero knowledge and experience about Life is Strange, but I know that its fandom is strong and it is a highly regarded franchise. Do you have any experience with it?
It's really funny you should say this, because I've only played the first Life is Strange game. I have good memories of it, but not particularly enduring memories, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. Interesting.
Even though everything about Life is Strange, like I look at that and I'm like, my God, like what a very me game this seems to be. I don't know why, but like ever since the first one, I have just never pursued the rest of the series. And I've seen True Colors get awards right and left and just get such accolades. You don't necessarily have to have played the other entries to play it. I don't know why I'm not attracted to it.
Hey, that's interesting.
I don't know why. Like it's weird, man. I try not to beat myself up about this stuff anymore. It's like the Hades, syndrome, where you're like, it won everything. I want to like this, but like you just aren't attracted to it and you don't understand why. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to give myself a break.
You know what? Not to bring it back to my relationship with Hades, but it's funny you bring that up, because I have a small list of like, you know what? Here's a bunch of games that deserve a second shot. I really want to go back to them when my headspace is right. And I got back into Hades, and I just everything about it. I'm like, I just so beautiful, so fun, great combat, all the setting and art style. The voice acting is fucking amazing. Phenomenal. In this game. It's like so good.
A lot of it is by one person. Multiple characters are by one person, which also blows my goddamn mind.
Yep. Stupendous. And I think I have honed in on a little bit. So I was playing it for a good while and then fell off again. And I think I'm getting closer to understanding why. And it is because I'm finding that how to put this? I'm finding weird difficulty spikes that don't make sense along a path. Meaning, like, I expect and understand this game to be a slow growth of power, meaning like this level's too hard or this enemy's too hard, and then I'm going to bank my stuff and invest in a power up and then do better the next time. And sometimes that curve, that forward momentum, which you talked about on previous episodes and previous games, sometimes that forward momentum is like, yep, okay, next time I want to go back and try again. And then there are times where I get back in and I'm just like, because it's different builds every time. You're choosing a different weapon, or maybe you're choosing the same weapon. You're choosing a weapon that you like, and then you're getting different boons to like make your build the way you like it. And I'm like, I go in again, and I learned from the last time, and I am building my I'm constructing my build the way I think it makes sense. And then I had a great run last time, and now this run I'm like, I'm just getting obliterated, and I don't know why. I don't understand why I'm doing everything the way the game is compelling me to do it, and I'm not understanding why. And then I go back again, and then I just get my ass kicked again. And I'm like, not that the game is structured exactly like this, but it's like, hey, I felt confident that I could get to level 4. Like, I feel good that I'm at a level 4 place, and now I'm getting my ass handed to me at level 2 repeatedly, and I do not know why. And I was just like, fuck, I can't. I'm gonna put this down again. And I don't know why this is happening, because everything else about it is, I want to like it, and I'm not getting there.
Yeah, I get it. And you know what? Once again, I give you full permission to not engage, to not click, giving you permission.
I thought I had it, though. I thought I was back.
It's okay. It's okay. I mean, look, and I think we've talked about this before in the show, but I mean, pause for a second and think about, the Dark Souls like fandom and how huge it is and how addicted, how many people are to Dark Souls and just could talk about it positively all day long. Not for me.
Yeah, but what it is for me here, as I'm articulating it, it's the not knowing why. Meaning, like, you get to a boss and this boss is so hard, and I know the reason I'm failing is because I'm not leveled up enough, or I need to improve my skill. And that can be a wall, that can be frustrating, but at least I know why. I'm drawing the difficulty curve of Hades for me for some reason, and it's these wild, crazy spikes that I can't predict or even like plan for, and that's what's kicking me off the rails. And it's not knowing why that's happening is the thing that's bugging me. So anyway.
For sure, I totally get that, and all I can say is it's okay.
Chris G, share what Chris G is talking about, because I have some other thoughts about it.
He says, I'm going to have to go with Lost Judgment. As much as I enjoyed Dread, Lost Judgment was just an amazing overall experience with a great story that had some themes hitting very close to home for me. One of the best entries in the Yakuza Judgment world. I actually have that sitting on my PS5 right now, and I'm like,
oh, okay.
Yeah, and I really want to play. It because, fun fact, about 14 years ago, I got really into Japanese dramas, like live action Japanese dramas.
Okay.
And so I found some favorite series, favorite actors, actresses, etc. And one of the most high profile actors in Japan is actually the main character of Lost Judgment.
Yes.
His name is escaping me at this moment because of my brain. I don't remember either. But he's a wonderful actor. I really enjoy him. And so when I saw that he was going to be in this game, I was like, this is so great. I have to play this. So, the idea of playing, a whole game as him is just really cool to me. So that is on my to-do list. I have never played a Yakuza game, though.
That was my question. Yes.
I don't know if it'll matter or not that I haven't. But I know that Lost Judgment is actually a sequel, right? I think there's another game with him as the lead that came before Lost Judgment.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Based
on what little I know, that he's been part of the franchise. Okay.
Right. And I was like, I have both of these. I think one of them was given away free at one point. I'm like, I have to go play these games. So maybe over winter break.
That sounds like a great, like carving out the space for like a meaty, story-driven RPG kind of thing.
It's one of my favorite things to do between Christmas and New Year.
Yes, that is the exact perfect time. I know so little about it, but I was intrigued by some discussion when the game came out of like the agency that manages his likeness and his movie and TV career and also his music career, because that's right. Isn't he like part of a boy band, or he's like a singer or something?
He used to be part of one of like probably the most famous Japanese boy band,
like
but they're all men group now. So can you still call them a boy band? I don't know. But they were together for like 20 years and were like one of the big prides of Japan. People cried when they broke up.
Right.
But yeah, so like somehow he managed to be in that and then also act and then also do games, I guess. So
yes. That they're so archaic and protective of his likeness that I don't think this game will ever or could ever come to PC, because they're afraid of what modders might do to him and his likeness and where he might appear on the internet. And then also some strange restriction. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but I think like music and maybe karaoke or something is like part of Yakuza. Like it is. There are themes in there, and like this guy who is a famous singer does not sing in the game because they were like, nope, we can't. There's too much legal stuff. We can't let him say. Just some is interesting, funny, like talent management noodling going on with the way this guy came into the game that was very fascinating and or like something like he's not even allowed to have social media because God forbid his picture be on the internet or something crazy like that. Anyway.
Yeah, they're like the way that they like deal with things like that. Like I remember this being a big deal around when I was really into Japanese music. A lot of the videos like that bands would make, like, you know, like for Korean stuff, like it's everywhere, you know? And like Korea is all about like getting their stuff out to like, you know, foreign audiences. Whereas Japan is like, no, you can't have that on YouTube. That shit is locked. And like, if you want to watch it, you have to be watching it in Japan. So like you go to watch it and you would literally get a pop-up that would be like, this is not available in your country. And I was just like, what? Why don't you want what?
Right. It's wild.
Why don't you want your stuff to be in more places? It's very unusual. So.
Yeah, the talent management infrastructure of Japan for some reason did not handle the internet well. They were still in the sort of physical media, local TV, you know, national TV world, and not in the international world.
On this podcast, I should tell the story of like the level of shit I had to go through to be a J-drama fan, because in the time period that I got into them,
back in my day,
the thing is that when I got into them, it was like 2007, and there was more like healthy, like torrent communities where people would like record it on TV, and then fans would sub it just because they wanted to.
Yeah.
And, you know, then you'd be able to go and you'd be able to download your English subs or whatever language, you know, and that would be what you do. And I really enjoyed that. And so I did that a lot, even though it took a lot of work. And now it's like, you know, a lot more torrenting has been crunched down on. So you can't, it's really not easy to do that kind of thing anymore. And a lot of the fan subbers just like gave up.
Have the companies been more open in transmitting?
Nope.
No. So the windows have closed. That's actually, I was hoping you'd say, well, that was a different time and we don't need to do that anymore because now we have the internet, we have social, you know. But
nothing has changed. So or like
now we have streaming, but no.
Takia Kimura is his name. I looked it up because I wanted to know. And I was like, I wonder like if this is just what he's doing now with games or if he's doing other things. And he's still acting. He's 49. He's still acting. So I was like, oh, cool. He was in a movie this year called Masquerade Night. And I look at it and I'm like, neat. How do I see that movie?
Get on a plane. get on a plane, fly to Tokyo, and see that movie.
Fly to Tokyo and see that movie, but without subs. And since my Japanese is so shitty, I'll understand like 15% of what is said, and that is it. Because like these things just don't.
Look, you know, there's a Discord server somewhere where you can get this movie and be downloaded and get it subbed. Like it's that, it's there.
Maybe, I'm just old and have been on the internet too long, and these things are there, but I just don't go looking for them anymore in the way I used to. So
who's got time for that?
Maybe that's what it is.
When you're a passionate teenager who really will stop at nothing to get your hands on the thing you love, sure, but not.
Well, also
not
I'm
now.
a PC owner, and I'm like terrified to torrent anything anymore because
yes,
like I used to, when I did that stuff, I used to do it with I used to do it with a Mac, and now I'm just like, I don't know what would happen if I tried. I'm just afraid of what might happen to my.
But maybe there's a world where it's not so much the torrenting, but it's kind of like, hey, hop into this Discord server, and here's a Google Drive link. Like a friend of mine one day, he's just like, all right, here you go. Here's just go to this link. This is what you need. I was like, what is this? He's like, it's the original 1977 theatrical version of A New Hope without all the special edition bullshit.
Oh,
I'm like,
wow, nice.
Got it. Okay, so people who care about this are on the internet making sure that we still have the original Star Wars somewhere, even though Lucas and Disney will never allow it to exist in the world ever again. And
never.
There's there's a discussion there about archiving and history and what corporations let us see and not see. So there's a lot to unpack, I think, but I digress.
Yes, indeed. Yes. At any rate, your turn. You say the next one.
All right. Well, this is going to be controversial. All right. It gets to what we were saying earlier. Seto Chaos says, I'm going to partially cheat and say RuneScape. I haven't played many new games this year. Same. Obviously, we were just saying that. Mainly been playing content that didn't come out this year. However, I played RuneScape all year round, and one day I'll max out my character, even if I've been playing it since the mid-2000s. And to that, we say, no. You are incorrect. You have failed. This does not count. But also, yes, like we as we were saying, we've been playing stuff from last year and previous years, but also like really digging deep on. I don't know. Like I still am enjoying my time with Eve Echoes, which is the mobile MMO, and I recently got back into Magic Arena, which is it's just. Forgot how much I loved the complexity of Magic the Gathering, like and the ease with which I can just jump into a match on my phone. I like having those sort of quote unquote forever games, like just places to dip back into that are ongoing. RuneScape as an MMO, there is a world there that you can just go back to and access whenever you like, and that's all I really want. Maybe I don't want new stuff. Maybe I just want familiar stuff sometimes.
Yeah, and I think there's nothing the matter with that whatsoever.
So you are cheating, but also we salute you.
But we get it.
We get it. Okay. Now who will go first? I think you traditionally go first. Do you want that slot, or do you want to give it up?
I'm totally okay with going first.
She's ready to go first.
Yeah.
Now, anything else you would like to say to preface your process, or maybe you want to talk about that on the back end here? Let me know.
I'm going to talk about it on the back end.
Great. Okay. Everyone, friends, family, ladies and gentlemen, people of all genders, we are about to reveal Colette Bennett's personal game of the year for 2021.
Returnal.
Whoa. I don't know if I expected this, and I'm excited to hear all about it.
Yeah, I really struggled with it, and I'll explain about why. Because like I said in the beginning of the show, I thought, well, Returnal's a game that I'm currently stuck in. It's so hard, so challenging that I have played. I looked at my playtime for it, and I think it was something like 80 something hours.
Okay, that's a healthy investment right there. Yeah, for
sure. If I had gotten halfway through the game, but I haven't because the difficulty is so high, and it is a roguelike. So, it's kind of a similar groove to what I got into in Hades. But one thing that I think a lot of people don't talk about with Returnal is that it is a bullet hell game. Yeah. So once you get to the point where you're fighting that first boss, you're starting to see some of that. But I mean, it gets just absolutely insane later in that passage. So that was one thing. I was like, does it make sense for me to name this my game of the year when I haven't even gotten halfway through it, much less finished it? But there were a couple things about it that I just felt like I couldn't think of anything else that quite impressed me or left more of a long-standing impression on me than this game did. Number one, the world. My God, the world. Like, I am still so fascinated with the world and desperately want to know what happens next to this main character that you play. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. I hope I haven't said this on the podcast before, but in the first 5 minutes of playing the game, you find something in this biome, which is what the sections are called on this planet, that is like the biggest, like, holy shit, like, I'm glued to this now moment that I've had in a game in a really long time.
A great opener.
It is a dark game. It is not a horror game, but it is just, I would call it like dark sci-fi. And if I really had to compare it to anything, I would say that a lot of moments of the vibe really remind me of Alien, the first Alien film. That vibe. It's not the same. It's not on a ship, blah, blah, blah. But there's some groove that I hit with it that I just absolutely loved. Also, anybody who has read about it or played it on the PS5 knows the use of what's the PS5 controller, the haptic feedback thing?
The haptic stuff, yeah.
It really was a transformative experience for me.
That's really cool.
You run through the rain and you feel each raindrop landing on it. The controller is
that's wild.
You feel little pinpricks of rain throughout the controller, so your hands feel as if you're feeling the rain on your hands. I mean, It was just really, that made such a difference in like the total immersion for me.
Yeah.
The character that you play, I wanted so much to know what her story was. Like that opening thing, which I don't want to spoil for anyone who hasn't gotten a PS5 yet, but that opening thing you find is like, I immediately imagined myself finding something like that, and how it would absolutely, I can't even imagine what I would begin to feel or think or wonder if I found what she found. And all the little hints and the little things that they drop to kind of start to give you an inkling about why you're there, why you found what you found, and like that you have to solve this, you have to figure out what is happening. I mean, it's truly, I'm still intrigued, and I'm intrigued to the point to where I don't want to look it up on YouTube, even though I know by now I could, because it would be so rewarding for me to actually get to the next point myself. And not, when I say the next point, not even like, just to learn something new about her story and about what it is. And it just really, it left such an impression on me. So I feel like I'm at this point getting a little circular. But for me personally, I just was so floored by this game on so many levels, and I still am, really.
Yeah, super quick question that might lead you to a new place here. Number one, what is blocking you from continuing? Is it purely a skill issue? Okay.
Yeah, for me,
there's nothing you can look up online to kind of get you, like a walkthrough to get you the next place.
My sticking point has been the boss. And it's it's one of those fights that has like 3 different stages. So like you get, you get down to a certain point the boss transforms into something different, and then you go to, your next level. And I played it enough times to where I've been able to work out what to do in that first and second stage. And the third stage speeds up so much that despite knowing what to do, I have yet to be able to survive it.
Right. That's rough.
Also, the boss is really fast and the bullet hell is really intense in that last stage. So I have yet to be able to get there. And so I tried so many times in a row that I think I burned myself out, and I was like, I'm going to step away for a while, but I knew I was coming back. So it was different from when you play a game and it beats your ass and you're like, fuck this. Right. I don't ever want to do this again. For me, it was more like I still am, despite having my ass beaten dozens upon dozens of times, I'm still so fascinated and want so much to get past this that I'm just going to take a break because I know I'm coming back to it eventually.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about how special and interesting that is for this medium of could you imagine a movie that you're like, yeah, this movie is so weird, I'm going to stop watching and then watch it again in 3 months. Like, what? You don't do that. But how dangerous it is to put a brick wall into a game like that, and how fucking amazing the game has to be to bring a player back after hitting that wall. It's a weird contradiction because you're saying, God damn it, this part of this game sucks. But the game is so good that I'm going to look past it and name it my favorite game of the year. That's amazing.
Was the thing that was so wild to me. I was like, I can't believe that this is what I'm coming to, because I had a couple of other things that I thought pretty seriously about choosing. And I was like, man, I just keep coming back to this, And so that interesting conversation that I had with my husband last night, it all kind of led to me coming up to this in the end. I have to admit that it really was the game that made the most impression on me. And actually talking about it more with you also for me is exciting because it's making me want to go back. And it's now been a couple of months, I would say.
Do you, when you have returned to Returnal after some time, sometimes games are like, oh shit, I have no idea what I was doing and I'm really bad at it and I got to relearn everything. And some games are like, oh, this boss or this puzzle that was impossible, just beat this in 1 second because somehow your brain figured it out. When you have returned to it, which category does it fall into? And do you feel optimistic that you can eventually, I'm rooting for you to not go to YouTube and to one day, 3 months from now, be like, yes, I beat it.
Right. I feel like I could pick it up, and I played it so many times that I could pick it back up fairly easily and just go right back into the groove of everything that I already learned. I feel strongly that I could do that. So that, and I do feel like I could beat it. I do feel like part of the issue that I have found that I had was that I think I played it so many times in determination, hoping to get there, that I wore myself out. And I was like, I'm going to have to step away from this for a while. But when I fight that boss, I have to be calmer. And I've really found that when it gets me upset or worked up, when I get hit hard, that is usually when I end up losing. You really have to have a lot of focus to be where you need to be, to dodge when you need to dodge, to attack when you can attack, and the bullet hell thing is a very specific type of playing too. So but I mean, I guess to answer your question, I think I could do it. And maybe that's going to be this weekend. Who knows?
Yeah. So, well, I think based on everything you're saying and based on your commitment to the world and the character and everything that's going on, I feel like you owe it to yourself to really try to overcome it one day, and not just take the shortcut with YouTube. That's
exactly how I feel about it. So I am going to kind of, continue to see what happens as I go.
Game of the year, personal game of the year, 2021 for Colette Bennett is Returnal. Yeah, I'm hoping. I don't know if there's official word on this, but like Sony seems to be bringing games to PC in bigger quantities than ever, and they're committed to that. So like, I'd love to see Returnal on PC, and I would certainly dive in there
I'm only assuming that Housemarque, the developer, struck up some sort of deal with Sony for it to be an exclusive, because like it would be an ideal PC game in my opinion. I guess for whatever reason they just didn't,
well, no, for sure. I'm saying like, right. I guess I don't know if it's like this was not made by Sony Interactive. It was like you said, Housemarque, but. Yeah, if it's a window of exclusivity, or if Sony would eventually say, yes, we are going to support you in this transition to PC, whatever. I don't know all the ins and outs.
It'll be interesting because the game's not that old, right? So maybe after a year or 2 years we'll see that.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, I guess we'll find out. But at any rate, yay! I named a game of the year. I did it.
She did it. Any runners up? That maybe we don't need to get deep in the weeds on, but that you
just
felt...
a few names for sure.
Yeah.
Unpacking was absolutely the game that I seriously struggled between which of these two it was going to be.
I thought it was going to be Unpacking for sure.
Yeah, and I did too. And I didn't feel like there was really a good system for me to be like, yeah, this one really exceeded this one in quality, or blah blah blah. Like, it wasn't one of those things where I could put the two side by side and go, well, this is clearly the better game or whatever. It just was. They're very different games, very 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 different games, and so I was like, well. I've really thought about this, and I felt, despite how dearly I loved Unpacking, I have to admit that I got so much more long-term out of my time with Returnal, and then I played Unpacking twice, and then I was like, okay, I've played Unpacking twice, and I've really enjoyed it, but I'm probably not going to pick it up again for many years, whereas Returnal is a game I'm still having, I'm still so interested in. So that I think was, pretty big for me, honestly. So yeah, it was hard for me to choose, really hard for me to choose. But in the end, that's what I ended up choosing.
I don't know why my brain went here, but like I'm thinking a little bit about an Unpacking 2, a sequel where they build on this extraordinary new kind of game and new kind of genre that we've never really seen before, but they expand it in some dynamic way where it's like, I don't know exactly which direction, but I'm seeing like more like a Sims house where you can zoom in and out on the whole house, or it's more, maybe it's 3D and, or as we've discussed a little bit, either procedurally generated unpacking levels where it's endless amounts of dynamically created content, or some sort of like level editor. Like imagine if there was a Mario Maker for Unpacking. I don't know that that's what the world needs, but like it would be rad to see that, or something like it.
And I don't know if the team would ever consider something like that, or they kind of feel like, oh, we've told this story now and we're
it's done. Yeah.
Right. And it's done. And that's that. I really don't know if that's something they're interested in, but I totally agree with you. And I did think a great deal about, like, well, how does one really scratch that itch, in that way.
Right.
So who knows? I'll keep looking, but
there will be not clones, but there will be, in the way that you see Stardew Valley and Minecraft, sort of the elements appearing in other games. Like I get ready. I think not that Unpacking is some sort of like blockbuster, but they were so much cultural conversation and so much passion around the game that like, give it 2 years and there will be some indie developer will be like, inspired by Unpacking, here's my take on this whole like put stuff where it goes thing. Or maybe that's like one mechanic in an RPG, in a larger RPG, that, like imagine the house you get in Breath of the Wild which had very minimal like decorate your house mechanics. Imagine if you had all that stuff in there as like one part of your larger game. That would be pretty dope.
Yeah.
In fact.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're totally right. Yeah, I hope you're right. I hope you're right, and that more people will be like, let's make games where we figure out where to put the right things in the right places. Because yeah. So, my other runners up, shit, the mobile dog game.
Yes. Old Friends.
Thank you. I just couldn't. My brain just wouldn't. Like I said, when we originally talked about it, definitely I forget what you call like tap games or like, games you go back to and you kind of repeat things.
Incremental games or clicker games, as they're sometimes known, right?
Definitely a clicker game. I never really would have been like, wow, one of my favorite games of the year was a clicker game.
Yeah.
Totally is and was and is. They continue to put out new content for it, which I think is really, really cool. So you continue to have cool stuff to do. But I really loved that. And then the other one that we didn't really ever get around to talking about on the podcast at all, I think, because I didn't play it enough. And so I felt like I didn't have enough. Like I felt like, oh, well, I shouldn't talk about it, if I'm not going to have more impressions about it to talk about, but was a game called Imposter Factory that is
never heard of it.
It is the creator is just one guy, and I played a game of his, which was an incredibly story-rich, beautiful game. Probably, I don't know, maybe 14 years ago or so, called To the Moon. It's a top-down.
Yeah.
Well, not top-down, but like it looks like it looks like an SNES game. Like it's just gorgeous, and he's very, very inspired by that particular time period. It's a story about two doctors that go backward through a dying man's memories to fulfill his last wish. So it's very moving.
Wow.
FYI, if that sounds interesting to anybody, the game is on sale for like $250.
Great.
So it's out there, but I've kept tabs on him because I've always been interested in what he's done. So Imposter Factory is, they describe it as a bonkers time loop tragicomedy murder mystery thriller featuring multiple casualties and a suspicious cat. And I was like, well, that's everything I want.
Okay,
so once again, gorgeous NES style, SNES style graphics, think Chrono Trigger. His writing is funny. It's tongue-in-cheek kind of funny. So even though these games are really story-rich, they're also really funny. His writing has a great sense of humor, which I love. And I just really, his storytelling just sticks with me. It's so memorable. So I played a little of it and I was like, God, this is so good. And then I got distracted. So when I was doing the research to decide what I was going to name as like my runners up, I was like, okay, this is, I'm going back to this weekend. So
nice.
I need to finish it, but it also is on sale on Steam right now. So if you like story-rich games, I would definitely say Imposter Factory is worth checking out.
Now, I'm sorry to alarm you, but you have said I'm going to play this weekend to like 49 games in the course of this conversation. So you got a lot of shit to do.
I have a long weekend, and I'm not doing any family stuff on Christmas this year. So it's like, when you stay home for Christmas, and I'm married to a gamer. We're like, hey, let's play games.
That sounds chef's kiss. That sounds real good.
So yeah, but that's it. I'm going to cut it off there. Excited to be able to, reflect back on these games and just think about what stuff made the biggest impression on me this year.
Love it.
It's really cool.
Okay.
And now
I will reveal my personal pick for 2021 Game of the Year, GOTY, if you will. My choice is Monster Hunter Rise.
I was really thinking about what yours would be, and this was one of my prime guesses.
Oh, good. See, okay. I had very similar. My struggle was I look back at everything and truly did not play very many 2020 releases. So, like we've discussed and others have said in our community, like Metroid Dread is phenomenal and really enjoyed it. Loop Hero was also a contender here because I think it's a tremendous game. I think it is not that a game needs to win because it's so unique or singular, but it is like unpacking. There is nothing like Loop Hero. It is truly a new animal in the arena here. So, and not only that, really engaging, really fun. So that was probably my next pick, and I couldn't quite decide. But when I had to boil it down to like, okay, I have Loop Hero and I have Monster Hunter. Like, which one is going to pull me in for the most fun time? Like, which one am I going to sink like 80 more hours into? It is absolutely Monster Hunter Rise, which I have not played in some time, but looking ahead at there is a expansion that will eventually come. It's going to be like March of next year. It's a little bit off, but like, I might dig back in before that, and I will definitely go back to it when the expansion hits. And, I became a Monster Hunter person with World on PC, and then the idea of it being in your hand, in on the couch in bed, and also like the notion of that being like, really, is this really gonna like be good and fun and run well on a Switch? And it is just a technical marvel. It's just so good. It runs so well. It's so dynamic and impressive. And then, at the end of the day, that loop, that endless loop of like getting the next gear and fighting the next monster and like, or fighting this monster 6 times to get that one horn that you need to make this amazing weapon. And it's not necessarily like the looter games where it's like, oh, this weapon has +3 more attack points, and so that's the best one. I need to get the best one. It's very strategic and dynamic. You really have to have a lot of different combinations of armor and accessories and weapons and loadouts to be effective against really high level monsters that like, well, this one really is susceptible to poison, or this one is really susceptible to whatever. It's highly strategic. And then you're also layering in the element of like, it's just so freaking fun to like launch into a hunt. And there's 3 other human players in there with you. And it's super cooperative, and it's super, you're not talking. There's no voice chat. There's no text to be entered. You can throw like a little emoji or like, hey, we should trap this monster, or but there's so much like the characters talk dynamically and they kind of say what they're doing. So it's like, hey, I'm in trouble, or hey, I've set a trap. And so you're aware of what other players are doing at a given time. And the core, just working as a team to like take down the next hunt is just it just never gets old. It does not get old. And when you're playing a PC game that it has these kinds of loops, you're like, all right, let me strap in and sit down and play 3 hours of this game to grind out my next thing. And I love that. I'm fully in for that. But to have that experience on a Switch, or like, I have been waffling about like, do I really need a Steam Deck? And now I'm like, I'm pretty sure I kind of need a Steam Deck to be able to play these kinds of games on the couch. And I was saying to my wife too, is like, our decompress time is usually like she'll watch whatever show or movie she's enjoying or binging, and I'll usually like go to the basement to play a PC game and stream a PC game, and that's where we will go. We will go to our respective corners to enjoy the media that we both enjoy. And lately, it has been really nice to sit side by side and sort of have each other's media in the background, but also doing our own thing, but not being apart from each other, and
I like that.
For me, this having robust, meaty experiences on a handheld platform is the key to that that dynamic. And I was saying, it's funny, we were just saying this earlier. I feel like I'm more aware of zeitgeist culture because I'm like, oh yeah, this Netflix show or that Netflix or this movie that's really hot. Like, I'm not like sitting down to like watch them all the way through, but I'm defaulting to being in the room and being aware of them, as opposed to like sequestering myself and doing my own thing. And it's just interesting. It's been an interesting like lifestyle shift. Also, like as it's been like cold and wintry and, you know, depressing, it's like I don't want to go to a cold basement and, you know, to play this game. I'm going to be on the couch and play Civ or you know, whatever like cute indie game just came out for Switch. So it's Monster Hunter, as we've talked about at length, it's a tricky game to recommend because it's so, you know, there's a learning curve and it controls in a way that is not like, it's not as responsive as other games you might want to dive into as a, you know, hey, I'm a casual gamer. Hey, I love shooters. I love action games. Well, this is like, and swing your axe and move over here. It is so different from everything else. But when you get it, when you really get it, it's just so satisfying to get in there, especially when you're with a team. So again, you know, is Rise like, is it a breakthrough innovative thing? Like, is it changing the paradigm of gaming? Is it pushing the envelope the way Unpacking or a Loop Hero or whatever? No, it's just another Monster Hunter game with some really cool new stuff added on top. But those cool new things plus the community plus it's on Switch is just like, oh my God, like this. If you said here you can't play anything else for 6 more months, you can only play this, I'd be like, all right, I can live with that. Like I could do it, you know. And I'm kind of excited to get back. I have not touched it in a long while, but I don't know why it's calling back to me again, and some things have reminded me that it exists, and I'm like, yeah, maybe I don't need the next PC game. Maybe I'll just go back to Monster Hunter. I don't want to burn out on it and right before the expansion, so I don't know if I'm going to wait or go back in sooner. But yeah, I love it. Can't love it enough, and I'm very happy that it's here with us in 2021.
Awesome. That's super awesome. And I think, you know, it's so funny how like I kind of had to juggle with myself and be like, yeah, you know, like I looked at all these like games of the year lists because I just kind of wanted to get a feel for the landscape. And then I realized that like, while there are some times where the game of the year is like, you know, whatever, Breath of the Wild or whatever, like I think for the most part, I tend to like stuff that's kind of off the usual game of the year list, honestly. Like Unpacking was on a lot of them, actually. But at any rate, it kind of made me go like, oh yeah, like this is not about, you know, naming the game of the year and having people be like, oh wow, that's really, you know, like, gosh, you have such a great, like, that you're right. That's the ultimate game of the year. It wasn't about being right in that way. It was about being what was right for you.
Correct.
So
exactly. And to that end, and we've talked about it a little bit, like I was thrilled to see Inscription be named Game of the Year. It was for Polygon and many others. And I feel like a criminal that I have not yet played Inscription because the second it appeared on the scene as a trailer or a teaser, I was like, yep, wishlist added. Can't wait for this one. And again, it's a mouse and keyboard game. So I can't, there's no way for me to play it with a controller in any other place in the house. And I just am not, you know, but so that's a huge blind spot. I would expect this decision to have been harder for me had I played Inscription or others like it. Similarly, and this is very, very tangential, but like honorable mention to Rift Wizard, which I talked about. Maybe I talked about with Sky. You were out for that episode.
Could have been away, yeah.
But like, just this randomest small operation. One or two people made it, and I love that game. And I think it does for roguelikes what some innovative things the way Hades does or did in totally different ways, but the dynamicness and the emergent gameplay of this little tiny PC play it in a window kind of game. Mm-hmm. It's am I going to sink 80, 100 hours into it the way I would with Monster Hunter? No. And so for those reasons, it's not going to be my top, but like honorable mention for Rift Wizard, this total little indie gem that is, if you like roguelikes, my goodness, it is so cool.
Yeah, I do. Obviously.
I do like them.
Yeah.
All right, friends, that has been our personal game of the year for 2021. We always appreciate you spending time with us. The Discord community, the link there is in the show notes. So we want you to hop in there and tell us what you're playing, and we will be asking things of you in the future, in the very near future, because we are excited to talk about our next topic, which will perhaps be I think very certainly will be a multi episode series. So we are looking forward to sharing with that with you soon. Any final thoughts before we get on out of here?
It's been a good year to be a gamer. That's all I can say. I think that every year gets better and better, and that kind of amazes and fascinates me. So who knows what's coming in 2022, but clearly the world is not getting its shit together. So I better look forward to more things to do at home with my television set. So, which is fine, because that's always what I've done anyway. So fuck it. Well said.
Could not agree more. We will talk at you in right before the new year. We hope you have a very merry holiday season, Merry Christmas, and all the holidays that you may or may not celebrate. And we'll talk at you in 1 week's time. Thank you so much. Bye.